Bienvenidos a la PTC Podcast, episode 43.
Hello and welcome to PTC Cast, episode 43, which is not bilingual yet. Today, Chris and I talk about cardio and programming cardio and how to use it to serve you and not to hurt you, which unfortunately is usually it's usually a tool that's misused, man. Yeah. We answer a couple questions at the end as always, but this episode is brought to you by progressthroughchange.com, where you can get your 4 easy habits for fat loss guide. It's like a 15-minute read. It's a free PDF. We've had almost 700 downloads, and not to like toot our own horns or anything, man, but I'm confident to say that it'll change your life. It'll change the way that you approach fat loss, that you approach health and wellness.
And you'll actually get results from it.
Yeah, that's the biggest part, man. So enjoy. Thanks for listening. I think I start every podcast asking you what you've been up to, but are you mountain biking right now?
I've been working so much, man. So no.
Okay, I got you.
Like that's pretty much all I've been doing is just working. And last time that I tried to mountain bike ride, you know how I have the suction cups on the front of my car in order to mount the
little
bike?
Mount thing.
Yeah, so one of them was like off, and so my dumbass, while trying to like put it back on, usually I'll like barely hit it so that I stick on the windshield.
Oh, I've seen you just
pop this time I wasn't even thinking, and I popped it, and crack on the windshield, and so it's not even suctioning on the windshield anymore. Damn. So there goes the mountain bike riding on my car.
Damn.
So it is what it is, though. I mean, I still ride the bike every morning, Monday through Friday.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. Well, that's kind of where I was wanting to go with this. I thought we could go into cardio a little bit today because I personally don't actually program any cardio for myself, but I walk Cora for 15 minutes before every workout. You see her tail just started wagging when I said walk. But I like to walk Cora 15 minutes before every workout because what I've found, man, is like a lot of people think that with cardio, like you just got to pound it into the dirt and you'll get shredded. Mm-hmm. And man, that's just not the case. Mm-hmm. And
recovery is the name of the game.
You nailed it.
Not recovering.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
You nailed it. And so I've said before, I'll say again, and I'll say it to the day I die, like any body transformation needs to be based in resistance training. And if your cardio is taking away from your resistance training, you're missing the mark. And so I'll have clients do, a little bit of treadmill, like at the end of a session or something like that. But, in my opinion, like a standalone cardio session that's going to be like 30 minutes or more, honestly, maybe even 20 minutes or more, needs to be a standalone session. Reason being, something you have to keep in mind is like at the end of the day, we only have capacity for so much. No matter how badass we think we are or how much we think we can be Arnold or anything like that, or we can outwork ourselves or whatever, like, if you're someone who's doing an hour of cardio a day and then you're trying to do an hour of weightlifting, like you're asking too much of yourself. You only have so much to give. Mm-hmm. And when you give so much to cardio, you don't understand how much you're taking away from your most important tool, which again is resistance training.
Yeah, I mean, look at me. I got to the point where I was doing so much resistance training that I was blacking out every time that I stood up, after my weight loss. And then you were telling me...
So much cardio?
Yeah, so much cardio. I think I was doing a total of 3 or 4 hours of cardio a day, and that was a mix of running and bike riding. Wow. Not stationary bike riding.
Wow.
And yeah, it got to the point where it was just absolutely miserable. Mm-hmm. And you were telling me to, switch my training and diet, mentality. So one of the things that I did was raise my calories, but then the other thing that I did was chill out on the impactful type of cardio. So like running.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
That's a big one too.
So I think I actually completely got rid of running and replaced it with just, the morning and evening walks and still the stationary bike. And that was a huge improvement with my training. I started losing weight again. My body started looking better because, with me being focused on losing the weight with just cardio, I started getting very flat.
Yep.
And, depriving my muscles of any resistance so that they can actually build or just maintain their use. And as soon as I implemented resistance training again with, enough calories, and then pulled back on the cardio, which I never would have thought would have been a good idea. I started getting results again.
Yeah.
And there was probably like 2 months where I wasn't listening to you. I wasn't listening to you. I was like, no, like you are one of the authority figures, with training and diet, but I didn't want to listen to you because I was stuck in my ways. Because you can burn more calories with cardio, and
when you think of it that way, like it seems like it's just an A plus B equals C thing. Like it's like, no, if I'm moving more, I'm burning more, and that might be true, but that doesn't mean you're getting the result that you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'm glad that you touched a couple different points there that I want to get into. Don't let me forget about the running thing. But first, with the with biking and overdoing the cardio and getting flat. Flat meaning you're losing glycogen out of your muscles, so you almost appear like stringy.
Yeah.
Or like, and so that's more of a bodybuilding term. But when I prepped for my last show, one of my goals was I wanted to be the leanest guy on stage, which didn't end up happening, but I got lean for all intents and purposes. But where I'm going with this is, for the last month of my show, I did an hour of the bike every day. And my calories were never too low. I think the lowest I went was like 1,800 calories on like a low day. But what I found was I lost like the size in my legs. I got some veins and I got some lines, but my legs looked small. They looked weak. They looked and
deprived.
They looked deprived. They looked like worn down almost.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows me knows that legs are one of my stronger points. My first 2 shows, I lost points because my legs were overpowering my upper body.
So swole.
And so, well, I don't know about that, but but no, point being there, like there's definitely a level in which we can overdo it. We can do too much, and we can overreach. And so, but to your point about the running, like it's interesting, man. Like when everyone thinks cardio or they think fat loss, the first thing they think is running.
Yeah.
Or jogging or whatever you want to call it. And there's nothing wrong with that modality in and of itself, but if you're someone who goes from couch potato, doesn't really work out much, to trying to run for, even 30 minutes at a time, a couple days a week, like what you don't think about is like the impact that your joints, your tendons, your ligaments have to eat through that.
Oh yeah.
And it's almost mind-boggling that that's the first place that we go, because we have other options like a spin bike or even just walking just to elevate your heart rate. Because at the end of the day, all that cardio is an elevated heart rate for a certain period of time. And you can do that with several different modalities. You could do the Stairmaster, you could do the row machine, you could walk, you could do the elliptical, you could
resistance training.
You can use resistance training if that's kind of the way you want to go with it. But the point I'm trying to get to there is, it's like you can't expect your body to be able to handle that right off the bat. So it's like, how many people force themselves to run even though their knee hurts or their ankle hurts or their back hurts or something like that? And if you like running, more power to you, man. But you have to gradually work up to it. If you're someone who's starting from scratch, maybe you start with like 20 minutes of walking and 5 minutes of running kind of mixed in there. Maybe you walk for 5 minutes and then you run for a minute, walk for 5, run for 1, and gradually work that up. There's actually, it's Couch to 5K, I believe is the name of the app. I have a client that uses that, and I really love their approach because it's exactly that. It's like, all right, we're going to start with, and I'm making numbers up here, but you're going to start with 20 minutes of a walk, and we're going to break that down, every minute or every 5 minutes, you're going to run for 30 seconds. But then like the next day you're running for 45 seconds. And you know what I mean? Like it's just slow.
Like a gradual increase.
Yeah, it's a slow, gradual buildup, because to your point earlier, you're only as good as what you can recover from. And when you're just pounding yourself into the dirt, what people don't realize is not only are you tearing up your joints, tendons, and ligaments, but you're causing such a cortisol response in your body that you're stressed. When you're in pain, and no matter how tough you think you are or how much you think you can just muscle through it, like the wrong kinds of pain affect you deeper than you think they do.
Yeah, it's not just training where it's going to affect you. Like it'll affect all parts of your life.
It'll affect your recovery. It'll affect your fat loss. It'll affect your
daily energy,
sleep,
your sex drive, your like everything, your sleep. You know, if you're like in my case, when I was doing all that running, there are some days, what am I talking about? When I was running, every day was a pain to stand up and walk. And with that being said, you know, I was stressed all day, and that led to me being stressed at night, so less sleep. And
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, exactly. In my case, thankfully, it worked out. But I think what could happen most of the time, which I've seen it happen to a bunch of friends and family members who have done this, is, you know, they get excited about training. They have a goal. They want to lose fat or whatever the goal is. And then they start, instead of, just building up to it, they go out, they start running. Maybe they're able to do it 3 days out of the week. And then, boom, they're shot.
Toast.
You know, they're absolutely toast. And they need a whole nother week to recover. And by the time they are recovered, that idea of training is gone, you know, because of that time length. But if they were to start with, you know, just walking in the mornings and then maybe speed walking, and then, like you said, maybe walking for 30 minutes and then running for 5 and slowly building up, the impact is going to be a lot less because your body's going to be adapting to it, and, you know, you're going to have a positive relationship with the training. You know, you're going to feel good, you're going to feel ready to go, and you're going to want to go.
It has to feel manageable and doable, and most importantly, progressible. I just made that word up, progressible.
But
you have to you have to be able to do more, not just from a willing to do more, but an actual capability to do more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like if you're hitting your ceiling the first day, and then you hit again, you know, the second day, where are you going to go on, you know, the third, fourth? You know, you're probably, like, that expectation is too high. And again, maybe it works out for some people. I'm not saying that it won't, but for a lot of people, it's gonna be bad.
Right.
You know?
And I think it's the same conversation that we've had before about adherence, where, you know, someone decides they're going to do a body transformation. So they're like, all right, well, I'm going to lift 6 days a week and I'm going to do an hour of cardio. Like the expectations just through the roof. And it's like, that's your one-way ticket to burnout, man. That's your one-way ticket to cashing in everything and failing, you know? I don't know. It's just an interesting, I don't know if it comes from desperation or what, but I don't know if you've ever had this moment, but I know sometimes if I, you know, have been off on my diet for quite a while, and then, you know, maybe one morning I wake up and I really don't like the number on the scale or the way that I look, then I'll, you know, back in the day I would be like, all right, well, from now on I'm going to do an hour of cardio every morning, or I'm going to run every morning. And it's like, it doesn't work, man. And to a second point of that, like, I feel like it's pretty common in our age group, you know, I'm 24, you're 24? Okay. So it's pretty common in our age group that, you know, you're starting to get a little older, and most people, I say get a little older, you know what I'm saying, but most people are used to what they were doing in high school. Yeah. Where, like, you know, they were whatever, playing football, practicing a sport, or running cross country, whatever it is. And then they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to go do what I used to do. And it's like, no offense, man, but you're not what you used to be.
Yeah.
You got
when it comes to training.
Yeah. You got to build back up to that. You got to work your way up to it. And, you know, that's kind of the same thought process as, like, you know, people will be like, well, I did keto before and keto worked, so I'm going to do keto again. And it's like, well, did it work? Because look at where we are, you know? But I don't know. I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything, but my point being there is, like, you have to kind of respect things for what they are and take an accurate assessment of where you are and how you're going to build up to that. Because that's the way you be successful with it. You check your ego at the door. You know, you don't walk into the gym and pick up 405 pounds your first day, unless you're you or Ed Cohen or something like that. Like, but point being, like, it needs to be a gradual build up, just like anything else. Like, you're only as good as what you can recover from, and if you're not recovering, you're missing the mark. You're overtraining. You're under recovering. You're not in the space you need to be in. So,
yeah, I think if you're just not taking things as face value, at face value, you'll be able to, you know, figure out the right way to do things.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're, you know, somebody who is maybe just getting into training and you think, in order to start getting into it, that you have to be running, 4 or 5 days out of the week for like 30 minutes along with resistance training and all of that stuff. Like, well, maybe look into it more.
Right.
Look how people actually start off training.
Right.
Look at what you should be doing for training, what your goal is.
Literally go on Google and look up, where do I start? What's the beginner running program?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've had a lot of people that I've helped. They feel like they are obligated to already know, or that they should know what they should be doing.
Right.
And I explained to them, I'm like, hey, maybe if they're like my dad, for example, he's a software engineer. I'm like, hey, am I going to go in there and
know how to code?
And automatically assume that I should know the, the architecture between all of these software companies for your business?
Right.
Absolutely not.
No.
I don't. Yeah.
You don't.
That's the same mentality with training. Just because it's more like widespread idea, that doesn't mean that you should be an expert in it right off the bat.
Right.
Like, you start off as a beginner.
Yeah.
That's good. You're going to learn so many new things, and you're going to learn the right way to do things for yourself. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, just the humbleness of, hey, I don't know what to do, really helps.
Yeah. And when you're able to check the ego at the door like that, it works a lot better.
Is that humble or humility?
I think it's the same thing.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's a matter of like not feeling like you need to know, admitting that you don't know, admitting that you want the help or the guidance or whatever that might be, I know when I started bodybuilding, I would just pull programs off of bodybuilding.com. There were free programs. They were nowhere near optimal or the best or whatever, but there was at least structure to them.
Yeah.
There was at least a plan in place, and you can say what you will about them. They're definitely not the best, but again, it's some sort of outline or structure, So I don't know. I think it's
something
just
to follow.
Yeah, it's something to follow. You're exactly right. But to kind of try to put like some X's and O's to it, like if you're just, Joe Blow and you're looking to start a body transformation, in my opinion, resistance train 3 days a week. And
that's a good starting point.
And end those resistance training sessions with 10 to 20 minutes of cardio. And I typically have everybody who, whose knees, ankles, and lower back and all that are good, just start with an incline walk.
Yeah.
So anywhere from a 2.5 speed and then a 5 to 10 incline. If you want to get fancy, you can track your heart rate and try to keep that sucker between like 120 and 130. In my opinion, you're getting a little too detailed right off the bat if you're concerned with your heart rate right out the gates.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, it's like try to get to a stable point that you can maintain for a long time and keep it there. All the rage recently, maybe not recently, maybe a couple years ago, was like high intensity interval training.
Yeah.
Where you would HIIT training, and in my opinion, you start using resources that are made for resistance training. So in my opinion, if you're someone who's doing resistance training or resistance training is in any way, shape, or form a priority to you, which it should be, HIIT training is probably not for you.
Yeah.
If you're jacking your heart rate up to 180, 190, and you're, sprinting on the stairs or you're running sprints or whatever, like if you like that and that's your thing, for all intents and purposes, more power to you. But what you have to keep in mind is, again, you're taking away from those recovery resources. You're taking away from your capacity to recover from what you do, whether that's like, now you can't train legs as hard, now you can't train back as hard, now you're not sleeping as well. It's all an energy balance. You're exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right. So there's definitely value in getting your heart rate elevated to those points, but in my opinion, you should be developing skills within the gym to get your heart rate elevated to that points during resistance training. Now, the point of resistance training is not elevating your heart rate, but show me a solid 8 sets of squats or lunges, 8 reps of squats or lunges or whatever, and your heart rate's going to jack the F up.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, if you're someone who believes you should be exploring those heart rate ranges, do that within resistance training. Not necessarily with the goal of getting there, but as a byproduct of doing whatever, 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 to 15, whatever reps with a significant amount of load in a controlled manner.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, 100%, man. And so, again, I think cardio is something that needs to stay away from weight training if you can. But, if you're Joe Blow and you want to go to the gym for an hour a day, slap it on at the end, man. Definitely not at first. There's nothing wrong with a little warm-up walk if you want, but you should not be gassing yourself before resistance training, especially if you have any sort of leg training on the menu.
Yeah, you do not want to be fatigued at all going into those leg training sessions. It's going to be...
That's injury waiting to happen.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yep. And when it comes to doing cardio, one thing that I do suggest also is low-impact cardio. So you pretty much stated that, with saying starting off with walks, but something that I also really like, walks are my favorite, by the way. That's my favorite form of cardio. And, if I'm doing that on the treadmill and maybe I want a higher heart rate for my walks, then I'll just increase the speed and then just, have long strides with my walk. That really helps with my adductors and hips too, opening them up. Because a lot of us, we sit down all day. Yep. And, with my job, if I have a new website that I'm building, I'm sitting down for maybe 10 hours consecutively over the next couple of days. So just doing something as simple as that helps. Also, stationary bike, I really like.
Yep.
And
that's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, I hate the Stairmaster, but I think that's also like a good lower impact form of cardio. But just be wary. If you're thinking about starting to run, if you're like more of a heavier guy, because I know whenever I was running at like 275, even all the way down to I think like 230 or 220, it felt like my legs were broken, and I would still keep on running, but that's a horrible way to live. You don't if you're just trying to maybe look a little better or shed off a couple pounds or just feel a little healthier, there's no point in being in pain just because you think running is the right way to do it.
I agree.
Yeah, replace it with some lower impact stuff.
You should be picking a cardio form that does not cause you any problems like that.
Exactly.
And sometimes that can be like you're walking in the wrong pair of shoes, or maybe you have some bad habits like sitting crisscross applesauce for a long time and that kind of tears your knees, whatever it is. But you definitely should be pain-free when doing cardio.
Yeah, you should feel really good.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. You should have a little bit of that runner's high, a little bit of that dopamine hit, man. You should feel great after a solid cardio session. To pull from the book Atomic Habits a little bit, I've found for most of my people that one of the best ways to get people to do cardio consistently, other than, for your health, is find something that you, number one, enjoy to do, whether that's, outside mountain biking or something like that, or, that's your time to watch a Netflix show on your phone or play a game on your phone, or maybe you talk to you give your family member a call or something while you're taking a walk. You know what I mean? Like there's ways to set it up so that you look forward to it a little bit more.
That's a good point, yeah.
For most people, myself included, cardio is like the least enjoyable part of all of this. But for me, like I enjoy it like walking Cora. It's quiet in the morning. It's calming. Yeah. So that's how I make myself like it. Yeah. But anytime, like if I'm in prep and I'm doing, longer, more dedicated cardio sessions, I'm for sure either listening to a podcast, watching something on my phone. Maybe I'm playing a game, So if you got a Nintendo Switch, like something like that, man. Something to keep yourself a little bit more invested and involved and,
make it
find
easier
a way to look forward to it,
I think in Atomic Habits, wasn't it like, isn't this concept from, he had a friend that was an engineer and he wanted to lose weight. And so he rigged his stationary bike in his house to make it so that he can watch TV as long as the pedals are moving.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's in Atomic Habits.
I more so just meant like the habit stacking. But absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, okay, you got a pedal or that sucker's not going to work.
So I was thinking, you saying to watch, maybe you can watch Netflix or something while you're walking.
Right.
A lot of treadmills have the input to where, you can just connect your phone into a larger screen to watch whatever it is you want to watch.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good way to, get started. Yeah. Go for, or whenever you want to watch a 30-minute Netflix show or something like that, hop on your treadmill if you have one, or, if you're at the gym, watch a Netflix show at the end of your workout.
Yeah. 100%. And I think another way to make it happen a little bit easier for yourself is if, you're somebody who goes to a gym, or goes to, needs to leave their house to work out and you want to use, a spin bike or a treadmill or something like that, buy yourself one, man.
Yep.
If you check out Facebook Marketplace, if you check out, whatever, Amazon, like I guarantee there's plenty of cost-effective options. It might not be the fanciest, it might not be the nicest,
But it will work.
but it'll work. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can get those walking treadmills for like $200.
Mm-hmm.
And I know $200 is a lot of money for some people, but look at it as an investment to your health,
Yeah.
$200 is a lot these days, but if it's an investment to your health and to yourself, like do that thing, man. And it might not be, you might not be able to sprint on it or whatever, but you can walk on it. And if, you're someone who struggles to find the time or even just the adherence to working out, if it's in your own home, it's going to be a lot easier. I got my bike off of Facebook Marketplace for $175 and I've put several hours on that thing.
Yeah.
It sits in my garage, and whenever I was in prep, doing my cardio was a no-brainer. I didn't have to go to the gym. I didn't have to, you know what I mean? I could roll out of bed if I wanted to. It could be right as I got home. I mean, it could be any time.
Yeah.
Because
it's easy to just hop on and get
Yeah.
started. I know one of the things that I did was I put the elliptical inside my room.
Yeah.
So
remember you saying that.
and whenever I would give myself, like, I guess, time to just enjoy myself, I would put on, a movie or whatever on my TV, and just be sitting there just casually being on the elliptical.
Yeah.
It made it really fun to do cardio.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. So I think that's everything I got there. You good with that?
Yeah.
On the cardio.
Cardio.
All right, man. Let's answer some questions.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the difference between type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers, and if it is important to train both in bulking and cutting phases to maximize size?
So is that fast twitch and slow twitch?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Fast twitch, slow twitch. Yep. Same conversation. What you got?
Oh, okay. I think it's very important to first have a basis in slow twitch, because I feel like that's where form comes in, and making sure that you're doing each lift properly, and then also improving your work capacity with, the muscle groups associated with that lift. And then when it comes to the fast twitch, I think after you have the other base or the slow twitch muscle basis covered, I think that is where you can have so much fun, man. Like that's where you can get really strong really quick, get a lot of results really quick, take your gym workouts to the next level. But I guess the priority safety-wise would be to do slow twitch first. Make sure to master that, and then move on to the fast twitch and just take your workouts to the next level.
For me personally, to be 110% honest, I don't pay attention to it at all whatsoever.
Gotcha.
And reason being, I think it's mostly relevant for like sport athletes. So
yeah, definitely.
You can make an argument for powerlifters for sure, but if you're talking about like bodybuilding or general body transformations, which is what I usually do, that's not really my wheelhouse.
Definitely.
What I will say is if you're talking about like a basketball player or a football player or something like that, like you definitely want to be exploring both those realms pretty frequently. But as far as training those fibers in their respective manner, in my opinion, any comprehensive program covers each base just by design.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, any comprehensive resistance training program, once skill has been developed and we're past the beginner stage and we're kind of cruising, whether that's like a month of practice or 6 weeks or whatever, at that point it's like, okay, you should have at least a couple of heavy sets within your workout, whatever that means, 3 to 8 reps, 5 to 8 reps, something like that, depending on what you're training. And then there should also be like some higher rep sets too, if we're talking about like 15, 20, 25.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're just kind of covering all your bases. And humans are incredibly adaptable. So if you're someone who's looking to just work in that strength range of whatever, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reps, or if you're someone who's just looking to work in that, stamina long-term range of 15, 20, 25, like you will adapt relatively quickly. Yeah. And what I've found is like, you'll find those weak links, like no matter what. Like I was a very, very adamant low volume guy for a long time. Like 2 sets, 6 to 10 reps of pretty much everything. But, you know, especially with muscle groups that I had struggled contracting with, like my back, I found that some of those higher rep sets are a really great opportunity to not only train it differently and recruit maybe some different fibers, but also an opportunity to practice the movement, to get a pump.
Which is really important.
Yeah. And then once you've mastered that, well then, you know, once you got your pull downs down to where you feel the muscles you want to feel, well then you can go from doing 20 to 25 reps. You can start working up to some heavier stuff where you can still feel that muscle working the way it needs to work because you've had the practice. And then now you're kind of covering all your bases. Maybe you do 2 heavy sets and then 1 lighter set. Maybe you do 1 heavy set and then 2 lighter sets, you know? So I think that's something that can really be like played with. But to be honest, like when you start talking about like, you know, fiber types for just a general individual trying to build muscle, lose fat, I really think you're looking at a pretty, I don't want to say like, I don't want to say like an irrelevant piece of the pie, but you're looking at, it's not really something I'd be looking at. Now, the guy who asked the question, Steve, is one of my clients. He's prepping for a bodybuilding show right now, so maybe it's relevant for him. But, you know, to the average person, I would say be sure you're doing some heavy stuff for low reps. Be sure you're doing some lighter stuff for higher reps. And when I say lighter stuff, it should still be challenging in that rep range.
Definitely.
Just because it's light doesn't mean you do 25 and then you could have done 50 more. Like, you know, you should be capped out at 20, 25, 15, whatever that is. So,
Yeah, I think the slow twitch and fast twitch matters if you're trying to get a specific performance outcome.
Yeah,
you know, like, I mean, what do you think for bodybuilding? There's not really a performance outcome except maybe being able to hold, you know, positions for a longer period of time.
Well, to me, it's almost it could almost be the conversation of skill acquisition, and stability. Because if your reps are, you know, whatever, you were talking about doing things slower earlier, like, well, if my rep is, you know, half the speed, I'm not necessarily sure if I'm getting more or less out of it, but it's definitely going to be cleaner and I'm going to be forced to stabilize for longer. You know, if it's a dumbbell overhead press and it takes me 2 seconds on the way up and 2 seconds on the way down, for sake of conversation, call that 4 seconds of stabilization at my scapula. But if it takes me 4 seconds on the way up and 4 seconds on the way down, call that 8 seconds of stabilization at my scapula, which has a benefit in and of itself. So that's a kind of a whole another tangent there. But so there's benefits for sure, but I don't consider it like a top thing to be thinking about or considering when writing a program or training someone for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. And then when it comes to powerlifting, the people that I train, what we do is we make sure to do the slow twitch muscle first, and that comes with higher reps so that you can get that the form and technique down.
Skill acquisition.
Yeah, the skill acquisition. And then after that phase is done, some take longer than others to accomplish that. That's when I really try to have them focus on those fast twitch muscles, man, because you know, the faster in powerlifting, the faster you can perform a lift, you know, the better you're going to be.
Yeah.
Usually, if you're able to, you know, maintain the form. Yeah. Because you're going to be under the weight.
Right.
Less time.
Right.
So, one of the things that really took my powerlifting to the next level was training with speed in mind. And so that's one of the things that I try to instill in the people that I coach after the skill acquisition is to go into every workout thinking about speed.
Yeah.
That after the form acquisition or the skill acquisition, that's going to be the most important thing.
Yeah. Because
at powerlifting.
And at that point, you're kind of talking about like neurological recruitment.
Exactly.
Like if you can deadlift 405, you want to pick up 135 like it's 405.
Exactly. It's no longer just about, you know, the weight. It's about up here and how you're using this.
Yeah.
You know, for training.
And in some ways, I describe it to my clients as putting some oomph into it.
Yes.
So, you know, because we spend so much time being slow and controlled, and as you should, and I continue to believe in, but you reach a point where you're going to be stuck in Little League syndrome if you're trying to do everything at 50% speed. And, you know, so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, if client Leslie is trying to do her 100-pound pull downs, but we're used to doing like 70 pounds, we still want that movement controlled. We don't want any bouncing. We don't want any swinging or anything like that. But like on that initial pull, like you got to put some fucking oomph into it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to pull that sucker because otherwise it's not going anywhere. So you have to kind of start with that intent. And in my opinion, one of the best ways to do that is plenty of warm-up sets, so properly priming your nervous system. Yeah. And then learning, like you said, learning that technique perfect first. So that way, whether it's quick, whether it's fast, whatever it is, like you've got it nailed so you're moving in that movement pattern. Because one of the most important things when we're talking about speed and training, one of the most important things is that you put oomph into it and you move that weight the way you need to move it, especially if we're talking about something heavy. But the most important thing is that you're understanding changes in velocity are the quickest ways to get hurt.
Yes.
So the most important thing is that you control the end ranges. So if it's the bottom of your bench press, motion should stop and you should press. If it's the top of your pull down, motion should stop and you should pull.
100%.
So that is something that's incredibly important. There should be no bouncing in those positions because that's injury waiting to happen.
And that's hopefully what the skill acquisition, phase will accomplish. It'll make sure that you're, doing these things properly and not just carelessly, so that whenever you do implement the oomph, the more power, the speed, all of that, it's going to still be in a controlled environment,
Yeah.
Instead of, like I think Coach Gaglione, which is Larry Wills' coach, the way that he explained it is that when he first met Larry Wills, he had a cannon on a wooden boat, and if you have if you have a bunch of power that you're putting into these lifts and stuff, without that foundational way of lifting, you could get hurt really quick and really bad. Yeah. So that's definitely something that you don't want to happen.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Cool. What you got?
Let's see. Okay, so we had this question. At what point did I decide to quit powerlifting? I decided when I realized the mundaneness of it. And I guess what happened was I was trying to fit powerlifting into my life when my life was constantly trying to push powerlifting away. And so there was always that like head-butting dynamic of me not really wanting to do it, but me thinking or feeling obligated to do it. And maybe that was because, I had been successful in powerlifting for so long. My social media presence is powerlifting.
Your identity, yeah.
Yeah. That was a big part of my identity then. So
I would say it was your identity then.
No, I think it was a big part of my identity.
I mean, when we were when
it comes to fitness, that was my fitness identity.
Yeah, but I'm just saying when we were like seniors in high school or 19, like it was like, man, I mean, you were willing to do anything.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
When I had that goal, that was my identity. Yeah. Like that drove all actions. I mean,
because I watched you sacrifice everything for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. I slowly started disassociating from that identity and like bringing other things into my life, by the time I was 23, at the end of 23. And then that's when I started like pulling away from powerlifting, but still fighting that dynamic of keeping it in my life. Yeah. And finally, what happened was one day I was in the gym. I think I was doing bench, and I was staring at the bar while it was like moving up and down on my chest. And I was like, bro, this is fucking stupid.
Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, I was like, and I racked the weight, and I went home, and then, at that moment, I decided that powerlifting would no longer be a part of my life, like absolutely no longer be a part of my life. Obviously, like I'll still lift heavy sometimes just because I enjoy it. Yeah. But I don't think that I'll ever lift heavy on squat. I don't think that I'll ever lift heavy on deadlift. I don't think I'll ever, do free bar bench again. It's just something that I was trying to hold on to when it was no longer a part of me. And finally, when I was able to accept that and move on, it felt freeing. And
kind of like a weight off your shoulders.
Yeah. And I also, or a little bit down the road, I decided to stop doing anything with the Toro Strong brand. I don't want Toro Strong to become anything. It's not important to me. So yeah, now I'm prioritizing what's important to me, and that's my business, my family, God, and self-improvement. So, powerlifting is just no longer a part of my life's equation.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, down the road, these 4 priorities, maybe some of them will change and, other ones will come in. But yeah, it just changed. And, it is what it is. I'm very happy for it because, I'm no longer wasting. Well, I say wasting. At the time, I wasn't wasting.
Yeah.
But, I'm no longer spending 3 or 4 hours at the gym,
Yeah.
3 to 4 times a week.
It's weird how much more time you have when you don't do that.
It's absolutely ridiculous how much time, bro.
Yep.
Like now I'm training, an hour and I'm getting a whole lot done in an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm loving it. And like I was saying, I don't remember if I said it in this episode or the last one. I want to go into CrossFit just for like
a challenge,
putting in more effort. Yeah. More cardio and, getting a part of different communities. And, as a powerlifter, I always secluded myself from people. And I've been telling you that I've been going to these networking meetings. And one thing that I've learned, bro, which I kind of always knew, but this is like just affirming it, is I freaking love people, dude.
Yeah.
I love people. I love talking to them. I love learning about them, having new people in my life and, obviously a certain type of people. And so I want to explore different areas except powerlifting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's the identity thing is a tough one, man, because I'm lucky. I'm really lucky to have just bombed the fuck out of my first show.
Yeah.
I got 6 out of 6. They pronounced my name Alexis Martinez. Like, it was not a good experience. But I had been training for a couple years, and I was already throughout high school, which I know sounds silly, but with just for context, within the bubble that is that, I was known as the bodybuilding guy. Mm-hmm. I was the bodybuilder. I hadn't competed yet, but everybody knew. I was wearing stringer tank tops and posting workouts and drinking protein shakes, and I was the first guy with the gallon of water jug in the high school. Yeah. That was me. And when I bombed out of that first show, man, it was so interesting because Arnold won his first show.
So it was like shit.
Yeah, like I think Ronnie Coleman did. Like the legends don't lose. Yeah. They don't. You know what I'm saying? And it was like it was just I was lucky to have that wake up call so early that like that wasn't just who I was. Yeah. And no matter how bad I wanted it to be, that's not what I was made for. That's not what was my path. And now I'm lucky to see myself as more than that. But, at that time it was, I remember that was probably like one of the darkest times in my life was just losing a bodybuilding show. And it's like, how pathetic is that? But it was just because of the point of how far I had let it become my identity and who I was, and then like you said, once you start opening up to these other things and even though it's not far off, like personal training, like really broadened my horizons so much because it was like, oh, I might not be the best at getting on stage and putting this all together, but I have a knack for showing other people how. Yeah. So it kind of like it forced me to step out of that role that I had created for myself. So
for the better.
Yeah. So I know what you mean, and like, but I can't imagine for you, man, because again, you were at a point where it was like you had put so much into it already.
Well, I mean, thankfully for me, I didn't really have like I was very tied to, I guess, being a powerlifter as my identity. Yeah. Up until I accomplished the goal of becoming the world's strongest teen that ever lived. Yeah. After that.
Check.
Yeah. Like after that check, I never really had any questions about powerlifting be a part of my identity. Like I knew that after that, I knew that, that was done. And I was kind of just trying to still explore powerlifting, but I wasn't as tied to it as I was then. Yeah. And yeah, slowly it just started drifting away. And then until finally I decided that it's no longer a part of me. It took 4 years. Yeah. But thankfully I didn't have like any bad feelings toward powerlifting, you know, like thankfully I had never questioned like, oh shit, you know, what now? I've always known, like when I was 18 and I decided to become the world's strongest teen and, you know, gain all that weight and everything. I remember at 18, I told myself, hey, when I'm 25, I'm, you know, done with powerlifting and, you know, I'm going to get back down to 180 pounds and I'll move on to the next thing. And I feel like that's just, you know, what's happening.
Yeah.
Like it's a self-realizing prophecy, bro.
Yeah.
Like
you're good.
Everything's going to plan.
Yeah.
So
you're good. Got something in my eye. I'm not crying.
yeah, no, he's crying. Very impactful story.
All right. We're going to wrap it there, man. Thank you for sharing that. So
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all listening. As always, we will catch you in the next one next week. Peace.